Okay, folks, part three. The other day we left off, we were installing the wear sleeve, and we had that installed. And then we installed the front cover. And when you install these front covers, you put all the bolts on. You do not tighten those bolts. You put on this new seal with that one special tool that I showed you, that plastic tool that goes over this. You slip this housing with the new seal on. And of course, you got to make sure you put your RTV silicone back here. I use ultra gray. That's what's recommended. Anyway, I use ultra gray here too. There's no gasket behind this cover. It's just ultra gray. Anyway, then you slip it on, and then it kind of centers everything out. Once everything's centered out, tighten up these nuts. There's 5 of them, and then you go ahead and tighten all these bolts up. That way, this seal is nice and centered. You don't want to tighten these up and then put that on, because then it'll be off-centered. It'll wear the seal out to one side, and then you'll have a leak. Then we went up here and we adjusted all the rockers. Intakes are adjusted to 12 and exhaust to 22. We did all that, and then we got our rocker cover back on, or valve cover, and we installed a new gasket that goes in here. It's just a rubber seal. I'll show you the old one, which is right over here. This is what Cummins has in there. It just fits in the groove, and it already has it's already molded to fit, so you really can't go wrong with that. Everything else has been installed. We installed our fuel pump, not injection pump, fuel pump, because like I said, this is a common rail engine. This is where most of your pressure is at, and it feeds each injection line into the engine. There's injection number 1, number 2. It feeds it, and then in here there's a feed tube that delivers fuel from the outside into the injector, which is under here. Okay, so this is a common rail engine. Actually, not really even a common rail, because common rail doesn't even have that feed tube on the outside anymore. That tube's on the inside. Common rail would be more like the N14s or the QSX15 and so forth. But this is very similar, only the fuel delivery system is on the outside instead of being in the head like the other ones that are actually common rail. Anyway, here's your chem sensor down in here underneath the pump. You can't see it too good because of the lighting, but anyway, my finger's pointing right at it, and that's what picks up your timing, and it goes off the cam, which is in the front, and then it tells this bad boy, the computer. You can see the connectors here. This is the tractor power and supply, and this is my other harness that goes from the tractor to the computer. This is the only harness that comes from Cummins that comes and feeds and goes into all of my sensors on the actual engine. Anyway, then we come over and visually inspect the turbo. All you're going to look for in the turbo is to see if you have any play. You're going to have a little bit of play because the way the turbo works, it runs on oil. So basically the bearings right on oil, and there's such a nice thin film of oil that the bearings are running on, that it literally basically floats. So you're not going to have much play in there. You'll have a little bit of play, but that's normal. As long as you don't have any side play, you're fine. Up and down you're going to have, that's normal. So if you ever see that on your turbo, don't get scared. Same thing on the back. This one's just all full of soot. Anyway, and then we got our flywheel on, our flex plate, then our driveline attaches from there to our transmission. And we're getting ready to put this engine back into the tractor, and I'll walk you over to the tractor and I'll show you why we had to remove the engine in order to do that, complete that repair. You see the engine? That's where the engine sits. It just cradles in this housing, and there's a plate right there. There was 2 bolt holes are at. That holds the engine mount, and back there there's another plate, which is that one on the floor right there. That plate bolts to these 2 bolts, and once the engine's in place and the engine what you call it, our engine mounts are in, they're cradled. You see that nice cutout in the frame? It cradles the engine here, and then that bracket on top holds it down, and that's all that holds this engine in. and you got this big empty space, and people are always wondering why you got such a small engine for such a big tractor, but believe me, that's more than plenty of horsepower. Then we got your radiator and stuff, the shrouds off. But I'll do another little quick video when we have the engine in and we first fire it up. Like I said, this is a QSL9, and we did the front valve cover seal, oil pan seal, and the housing that holds up your fuel pump and goes behind your cam and your fuel pump gear. Alright, hope you guys are finding this video informative. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the bottom, and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible, as soon as I get a chance. Alright.